Hello and welcome everybody to this afternoon's Virtual Space Hero LinkedIn live stream. We are also streaming to Facebook and YouTube again. So to everybody out there who is joining us for this intriguing discussion this afternoon, welcome to all your channels. I'm really happy because the topic today again is something that connects very well to what we were talking about last week. Last week we had Andy Swan here. We were talking about virtual teams and we were talking about trust in virtual teams, for example. And one thing that of course is of utmost importance is the meetings we are having. And I don't know, if you're thinking about the last month and the meetings that you were having, I would love to see your faces. What are like the faces looking like? It's like a smiley up, or is it rather a smiley down? I do know, and I saw a few studies that were looking at the quantity of meetings that we were having, and they increased a lot during the whole Corona situation, because we were trying to create maybe more togetherness through all those meetings. But at some point, it just became too much. And particularly why? Because what were we doing? Some of us, as we did not know better, we were thrown into the virtual from one day to another, and we were just using the practices we know from our in-presence meeting one-to-one in the virtual space. And that doesn't work always because it's more complex. And I'm really super happy because today I have an amazing person here with me in this virtual space here, LinkedIn Live. And he is the master of engagement for me in the virtual space, because he doesn't only create a super engaging platform, but he also already talked to over 200 virtual facilitators across the world. So, and with this, no more introduction needed, because we're going to invite him to this LinkedIn Live stage, and I'm going to open the virtual doors, right? What else? Let's welcome with me, please, Kevon Cheung from Toasty. And here he comes.
Hello, hi everyone. Good to be here.
Hey there, Kevin. So great to have you with me here, finally. We've been in touch already for quite a few months because we met also only in the virtual space, right?
Yes, that's right.
Absolutely. I think we met like around March or April in a Remo event where I saw one of the technical possibilities of your platform, but we're going to talk about that a bit later. And with this, let me also welcome again our viewers out there and our participants, because you know, this discussion, this live discussion, is also a discussion not only among Kevin and me, but it's also with you. So we are highly appreciating your comments, your questions, and also your thoughts. And even if you disagree with whatever we're talking about, we're super happy to receive them. So just type them in and we're going to pick them up the moment that we see them. Fantastic. Super cool. And I see, hello there, Umar is joining, and I think Umar is joining from Azerbaijan. Hello there. We see Vincent joining. Hello there, Vincent, and Fiorenza, and all the others as well. So let us know if you are there, because then we know that you are there, right, with a short comment. And please provide us with your questions and thoughts. So welcome again, Kevin. We had a brief chat beforehand, and I'd love to ask you a little bit about your background, because I know you already a little bit, but the participants, our viewers, not yet maybe. So where are you from, what are you doing, and what is your aim?
Sure. I think I'll kick off with my name. Like a lot of people ask, is that a typo on your name? Is this supposed to be Kevin? But because I and O is right next to each other on the keyboard. But the answer is no. I actually changed it on purpose, because I used to be Kevin, but I think Kevon Cheung is such a common name, so I want to be a bit more special. So I changed my name. But anyway, to share a little bit about my background. I'm actually sitting here in the city of Hong Kong, so quite far away from everyone. And I run a company, a tech platform called Toasty. And happy to be here to chat about collaborations, virtual meetings today, because that's a topic that I'm personally super passionate about. I think we can do so much better online, not just like when you're in a meeting, not just talking to each other, but maybe I'm usually the type that don't talk. When people are talking, I just stay at the corner. So I think there's much better way where everyone can get involved and make it a better experience. So I start working on the platform with my team. And then you mentioned that I'm a master. I'm not a master. I basically just work together with the community of like meeting leaders, facilitators, to learn from each other. So I'm also here today to learn from everyone else. So feel free to comment anytime and we'll keep it engaging.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I think it's interesting what you're picking up, because having everybody participate is a topic also that I looked into a masterclass that I was giving last or 2 weeks ago about inclusion in the virtual space. And of course, we can be only impactful, or our meetings can be only impactful if we include everybody. And if we always consider that aspect as well in the virtual space. Kevon, you are a virtual enthusiast. You want to make meetings better and more engaging. How did you end up with that big wish?
To be very honest, just like all the startups out there, this is not something that I set out to do in the beginning, but it's kind of like a soul searching process of finding what you want to do and how you want to help people out there. So long story short, our startup, we used to focus on physical meetings and events and workshops, but we were forced by COVID to move everything online. But I guess we were in a lucky spot because we focus on engagement and collaboration, and people need that back in March. They were asking for it. So we were a bit lucky that we can just kind of bring our technology online and make it work. But yeah, all in all, I think I mentioned a little bit just now, I think I have always been in the people business. Before Toasty, I was doing education, teaching kids how to code, how to write website, how to write mobile apps. I'm not a teacher, but I run the academy. So I always fascinate about how we interact with each other. What are the little tricks that can get people to talk more, to collaborate more, to express themselves more. So I guess that's the starting point of why I'm working on this.
Super cool. And what would be like the first small conclusion that you have from seeing what was happening in March and how we were moving our meetings online? Because also, as I was saying in the introduction a little bit, many of us, we just didn't know how to move online. So we took our meetings 101, we moved it to the virtual space, and we were hoping for the best, right? But as we know, bad meetings, there's only one thing worse than a bad meeting. It's a bad virtual meeting. So what is happening? What is happening?
I think, first of all, want to clarify, like when we talk about virtual meeting, I guess today we're going to talk about meetings that are more than like 5 people. Because if you only have like 3 to 5 people, you can really just talk it out. You don't need a lot of like different ways to help you collaborate. But if you talk about 5 to 20 people or 25, this type of meetings, you really need someone to take lead to guide everyone through the experience. So I think the number one mistake that people make is definitely thinking they can just move the meeting online, open up the platform and start talking. I think there's just way too much talking happening in meeting. So I guess I understand why they're doing that, because it feels like when people are talking, they're discussing, they're making progress. And when you gather, you want to make progress, right? You want to go to the outcome. So it makes you feel like you're doing that. But in reality, like what I learned so far is from the professional facilitator is that actually, if you can get people to be quiet, if you can get people to think, to reflect and type something out, or even use a whiteboard to express their views, that is actually going to move your meeting a lot faster than just having people talk and talk. So I think that's number one, don't just talk. Number 2 is I think people don't plan enough. I don't know if you have, I think we all do that, to be honest. We're so busy, so we just hop on a meeting. But if you have like 10 people in a meeting, I think the last thing you want to do is go in with just an agenda. And I'm going to tell you why it's bad for virtual. Like in a physical meeting, you can have the agenda, go in, and then you can wing it, right? When we get to this item, let's write on the whiteboard. You can have that flexibility. But when we go online, if you don't prepare the whiteboard exercise, you're never going to do it because you don't even know where to find a whiteboard. How do people get access to it? So you need to be a bit more intentional. And I really want people to plan their meetings more. So I guess that's my second takeaway.
I think that's super important, and it comes a little bit out of project management. If you don't plan, you plan to fail, or I don't know how the quote is, the correct quote, right? And I also think that planning in a virtual setting is much more important. Also because my experience also as a virtual facilitator, trainer, or professor, for example, that I usually need to plan for 20% less because interaction can be slower. There might be also slightly more challenges because of technology. Sometimes there is a student or a participant who cannot do something, and that's why I need to plan less. And as every trainer, we need to have our backup plan, right? A backup in terms of exercises that we can do. But what you were saying is really great. So planning is super important, and structure as well. And I think there are a few things that I always say, like, if we plan, we need to send out the proper calendar invite. We need to have the link there. And you know, the problem now with the Google Calendar invites that I'm getting is it's confusing because many people have like a Google Calendar, they give you a Google Meet link and then also a Zoom link because they don't figure out how to delete the automatic Google Meet link there, right? But anyways, clarity on when to meet, where to meet, and also on what it is going about. So what is the structure, the agenda, and how many minutes do we have for everything, or how much time dedicated is important. But you're saying we're talking way too much. So how would you start a virtual meeting, for example? And let's just, before we go to that, let's just pick up on what Vincent is saying here. So he's saying in his experience that is even in online meetings with up to 5 to 10 people, it is still difficult to anticipate spontaneous speaking turn taking by just watching the screens. Do you have any tips for that? Or do you have a question for Vincent maybe?
So the question is still difficult to anticipate who is talking next? Did I get it right?
I think that's what I understand here as well, in the sense of that if people are not like intentionally unmuting themselves or raising the hand, probably that's what he might be meaning. Vincent, if we misunderstood you, just post again and clarify. But what do you think about turn taking in virtual meetings?
I think really good question, because it touches on the human personality. I think if you have like a very dominant speaker in the group, then I don't think there's any tips or technology that can save you from it. But generally, I feel like Vincent is saying yes. Generally, I feel like if the group is getting along pretty well, I actually don't see a lot of problems with like people finding their entry point to go in and talk. So I think if you really have that kind of personalities, then as a facilitator or a meeting host, then you should spot that and you should quickly improvise on the spot and say, wow, we have this person who is talking so much. Maybe let's break into small groups, because Vincent said you have 5 to 10. You can easily break into 3 small groups and get them to talk about the topic differently and come back and each group share a little bit more. I saw that is really effective because you're not letting one person dominate the conversation. And when you split into small groups, everyone gets to participate. So that's the best thing you want to do. And if you can do that early in the meeting, everyone opens up. And even if you bring the 10 people back into the main room, what I see is they work a lot better because everyone is like, oh, I'm opened up already, so let me contribute a bit more. Yeah, of course, that's my C, but that's what I see, but it's different for every combination of people.
Yeah. Okay. I also see that this is, of course, a very huge task for the meeting facilitator. And if the meeting facilitator does not recognize that one person is taking up so much time of the speaking time in general, it should be always okay that one person of the team advises or writes a personal message to the meeting facilitator to look a little bit more on a balance. And me as a meeting facilitator, for example, what I always try, and that's also a little bit of inclusion, hopefully without pressure, to call out by names, right? We can always try, if I see that we have 5 people in the meeting and there is somebody who is never contributing, for example, I could always try to call out by name that person and try to integrate. But also that it might be challenging because it might put pressure on that person. So it depends a little bit on the group dynamics, probably.
Yeah.
So there is also Fiorenza. Thank you so much for your comment. She's saying, thanks, interesting. Kevin, I see some virtual meeting facilitators explicitly asking participants to keep on mute and raise their hand and waiting to be called prior to talking. It kind of kills the spontaneity. What would be a middle ground in your view? Very good question. Thanks so much, Fiorenza.
I saw, Barbara, before this live, you had that comment, you had that question in mind as well. Like you want to ask me about mute and unmute. Is that right?
Let's go ahead with that because that's
I guess my view is very simple. With different group size, you should have different expectation. For example, if you have 30 people in the room, it makes sense to ask people to mute so that you can keep it a very quiet space for people to really listen to each other. But I guess if you have a group, let's say Vincent, 10 people, I think it's better to stay unmute because Fiorenza, I think you're exactly right. The human behavior, right? When you ask people to go on mute, they're not going to talk. They're just going to sit here, and until someone call out their name, then they're going to unmute it, because it adds a block into the whole conversation. So it kills everything. But again, it comes back to the group size. I think you cannot have everything. So if you have a small group, leave it unmute. And if someone is noisy, just call them out. But if you have 30 people, I really don't see a way how you can leave it unmute. Yeah. Give and take.
It's something a little bit to experiment with. For example, I was like 2 months ago at a virtual conference. Amazing. It was an amazing unconference organized by a group of people from the south of Austria. And what they did is from the very first moment, they said like, we want everybody to be unmuted. I was like, how are they going to do that? It was like 100 people, and they were like, no, let's stay unmuted. And I totally get it, because you get as a speaker, for example, you get a more immediate feedback. People are reacting more immediately as well. But of course, what was happening after like half an hour or something, there were people suddenly on the phone, or somebody was coming in and calling, and they just forgot that they were unmuted, because we are so used now to the being muted status as well. So I think there's a lot of change that we need to do in our own way if we want to try it out, how to work with the unmute. And I think also, as you were saying, I totally agree. I would always suggest in a small group, keep yourself unmuted and maybe try that out a little bit for like, how does it work if I have 5 people, 8 people, 10 people? And how does it work with that group? If I'm working longer together with that 10 people, maybe it's more spontaneous. But you were also saying it's better to talk less and write more, right?
So that's why it's so hard to become a facilitator, because you have to really observe people and adjust on the spot. Yeah.
And of course, that's difficult because we have like this limited frame that we can observe. We don't really see more about the participants, right?
Yeah, I wish I can see their faces.
Yeah, exactly. Your faces out there in LinkedIn, in Facebook, and in YouTube. Thanks so much for the comment, and keep writing them in. If you have questions or other comments, our experiences, we are really very much looking forward to hearing from you. Cool, great. So we were talking a little bit about the speaking, muting, and unmuting part, which I really believe it's a huge aspect. I do know, I think it was a Scottish startup. They were trying to work on an automatic mute button that recognizes when you start speaking. automatic unmute mute button, and probably that at some point might be really great. But let's see when that really will be functional. So what else? You were talking to around 200 facilitators from across the globe, right?
Yeah.
How was that? Why did you do that? And what are the outcomes? Let us know a little bit about your insights there.
I guess the reason why I talk to so many people is if some of you are out there developing a product, you understand that you have to talk to a lot of people, not to tell them how great your product is, but to understand, hey, how do they actually do it right now? What are the obstacles? What are the challenges? So like absorb their experience. So that's what I did, because I want our product to move towards the facilitation engagement track that not a lot of platform work on right now. So I talked to people, and I learned so much, but I guess to share maybe 1 or 2 points. The first thing I learned is I'm an introvert. So when I need to facilitate a group of people, I was pretty nervous in the beginning. I would try to talk a lot because I feel like if I stop talking, I'm not engaging people. So I need to keep talking. But what I learned from this professional facilitator is that actually let everyone know that silence is amazing. So if you state it up front, like maybe in the beginning, you say, we are going to have some silent moment, but it's okay. It's a time where we reflect on what we should do next. Then you set yourself up for success, because people are not going to judge you when they see that nothing is going on. So yeah, kind of just state it up front so that people know why you're doing this. So that's my biggest learning from talking to them. And my second learning is pretty interesting. Like when I see how people facilitate, I thought the experience would be you are setting up the structure and then you put people into different topics and then they just follow what you do. But when I learned from these people, they're saying that, no, don't force people to do what you want them to do. Open up the room. For example, if you're in a virtual space, set up like maybe 6 breakout rooms with different topics and let people choose which topic they're interested in and let them go in by themselves, figure out what they want to chat with people about. And if they don't like that chat room, they can move around themselves to another room. So at first I was like, okay, is this like a conference where you network with people? And I realized, no, it's actually a technique in facilitating meeting. For example, like if you want to talk about culture problems in your company, right? And you get people from different teams and you're going to get them to express their feelings. That you can use this technique as well to get them to talk to different departments so that they can come up with some ideas to solve this problem. So that was kind of my biggest learning from talking to them, is the ability to lose control. So you as a facilitator just sit back at the corner and let people figure out what they want to do. But of course, you have to set up the structure so that they know what to do.
I think that's interesting because definitely that needs a lot of structure, even though those open spaces or bar camp conference sites, where at the end it's more or less the same, right? It needs a lot of structure in the background, even though it allows for a free floating participant crowd, right?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Let me ask you here a question. So when we talk about that in a virtual space, I think it also reminds me, from a teacher's perspective, it reminds me a lot about problem-based learning, because in problem-based learning, you let your students, and it's also a super structured teaching approach where you have an 8-step, the very traditional one, and you have a topic or a case, but you let the students or your participants decide on themselves what are the questions that they are going to answer. And that's similar to what you're saying, because that's how you get them engaged. They choose the exact what, right?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. When you force people to do something, they lose interest right away. But if you give them flexibility, autonomy, people are like, oh, this is like a game. Like I can move around, I can talk to people. If I don't like them, I can leave to another room. then people will be engaged. So yeah.
Okay, and now there is Veronica asking a question. I was about really asking the same. So it is difficult to split up a big group in the subject that they want. So, and I would have an idea how I would be doing that. And of course, another tool as well. But what would you suggest, Kevin? How do you do that from a technical perspective? Splitting up the groups in topic areas, or that they can move around freely. How would you do that? Thanks a lot, Veronica, for the question. Very good one.
Thank you for clarifying. I was thinking, is this a technical question or is this more like a structure type of question?
Well, let's take up on both aspects, the technical and the structure. I like that.
Let's think about technical. Is it difficult to split a big group in the topic that they want? It really depends on the platform, and that's exactly what we see, which is lacking in the space right now. Is there are so many, actually not a lot of platforms have breakout rooms, but when they have breakout room, it's a simply breakout room with a, like, you put people in and then they can have like a chat. That's it, nothing much. But the way we think about it at Toasty is, first of all, you're going to ask people what their interests and what their ideas are. And you get them to like have some post-it, share all the ideas. And then from there, maybe you do a vote and see which one are the topics that people want to talk about. And you rename your breakout room space on those. And you enable people to move around and say, next 10 minutes, I want you guys to move around into your breakout. And there will be maybe a document or a whiteboard. You can collaborate, write your conclusions or brainstorm anything and put it there. And then 10 minutes later, we'll bring everyone back to the main room. Like, that's how we think about it, to make it seamless, like voting to the rooms. But of course, not a lot of platforms offer that. So I guess that's why we work on that, because it's hard to do right now. But I think, Barbara, you had a way to do it on Zoom as well, right?
Yeah,
you want to share that?
Yeah, definitely. I'm happy to share that. But I think it's so important because the way I'm doing it, of course, it requires a lot of technical know-how. Of course, as well, creativity, but you need to be very fast with the technical things that you're doing. And that's why I think it's so great that you're working on that with Toasty, because Toasty is such a great platform that allows for much more collaboration and engagement. And if you really have that feature enabled, it's like fantastic. So what I would be doing, or what I did in the past, for example, was I was doing the same, having, for example, sharing a PowerPoint or sharing 6 topics. I call them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They have a name, so it's organizational change, organizational development, human resource, intercultural, diversity, whatever. And then I give my participants in the Zoom meeting room, I give them, let's say, 3 minutes, and I ask them to rename themselves. So for example, if I have 100 people in the room, I ask them, if you want to be in the room number 1, that is about organizational development, your name should be 1 Kevon Cheung. And my name, I want to be in the room number 2, it's 2 Barbara Covarrubias. Because that is a way for me to build up the rooms later on. I would do that. Probably in the meantime, maybe I'm going to send them on a break, because then you need to open up the rooms. And depending on how big the group is, it can take you less or more time, right? So if it's a group of 15 people, I have no problem, because it takes me like 30 seconds. But if it's a group of 100, 200 people, I definitely need or another speaker in between, or I just organize it in such a way that there is the break time, and when they come back from the break, I remind them, hey, the room number, and don't forget about your topic, and then I send them this way to the breakout rooms. And of course, you know that in Zoom and also in the other tools, they can always come back to the main room, and then I need to switch them manually to the other room. It's just more handwork, or how do you say, like manual work.
Yeah, so you're exactly right. Like, it works, you can tweak it, but it's just very hectic. And the worst part is when you're doing it for 4 minutes, everyone is waiting for you for 4 minutes. Like 100 people, that's 400 minutes. So yeah, there must be a better way. But we're working on it. It's not out yet, but it's coming.
Very, very cool. I'm very much looking forward to that feature. Really, super great. I think in the meantime, I think that's really interesting because there are many things that we can do in the virtual space. We just need to be a bit more creative on one hand.
Yeah.
Very often we let ourselves be limited by technology. That's also our big thing because we see Zoom as breakout rooms with 2 functions, how to cluster people, and that's it. We don't think, often we just don't have an idea how can we do it differently. And but of course it also, and that would be also my suggestion, but I don't know what's your take on that. In bigger virtual events, I have been working for many years virtually, so I don't really, not necessarily need a co-facilitator, but it's always less stressful for everybody if you have a co-facilitator. I don't know, how is your take on that, Kevon?
Because I know how hectic it is, so I'll definitely say yes. Co-facilitator to watch for different things is good, because I know some people, like when you have, let's say 80 people in the room, you probably need 3 facilitator. Okay, let's see. The first one is the one who do all the talking. The second one is the one who handle the technical things like breakout rooms, let people in, something like that. And the third one is actually just like looking at the chat, throw questions to the lead facilitator, or capturing ideas from the session, because now everything happens here, and then when the meeting is done, it's all gone. So that person capture idea. I think it's a need to have a co-facilitator so you can focus on what you do the best. But I'm sure there are ways to make it less hectic. So instead of 3 co-facilitator, we can just use 2. So yeah, I'm sure there are ways, but I think we're still very early.
Kevin, we need that Toasty feature. I think that's the point here.
Yeah, I think, like because of the pandemic, there are a lot more people using things online. So the technology is trying to catch up. So we're still quite early. We're only a few months in. Next year, I guarantee you there will be a lot more amazing platforms out there that makes our lives easier.
Super cool. Let me pick up another time. And I'm just checking because I don't know why we can't see Karin. It's Karin Brunnemann, and we can't see you here. But anyways, I checked on LinkedIn in the other window, and I know it's you, Karin. So Karin is mentioning if people have to wait, they usually start doing something else, like reading their emails. Then there is a risk of losing their intention entirely. Absolutely. I think that's also why if I would be doing that, I always plan it in such a way that, or somebody else is talking in the meantime, because there's a small presentation and I know I need 5 to 10 minutes to do that, or I plan a break beforehand so that there is not an awkward moment. Thanks a lot, Karin. And what do you think, Kevon? Something else to be added here? How to not lose their attention if there is an awkward nothing going on?
I think you give a very good opinion from the facilitator standpoint. I guess from a technology standpoint, my take is that right now we're all using the same platform, trying to hack things out, trying to make it work. So there are a lot of like not so great transitions, but that's exactly why we need to work on the workflow of things, how to smooth out the transitions. So we don't have to like wait for 4 minutes for people to break out. For example, like I heard a lot of people say we have to wait 60 seconds to go into the room. That's a waste of time, because when you announce that everyone goes into a breakout room, you should just go in because everyone is waiting that to happen. So yeah, small things like that, this can definitely help.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much. And super great questions and comments. So thank you very much. Keep them coming in. We have like 7-8 minutes left for this LinkedIn, for this live session and the live discussion. So if there's anything else you want to share or ask, please pop it in. But let me ask you another question in terms of facilitators, because you were talking facilitators, and what is your suggestion for us as virtual facilitators? What should we learn in terms of facilitation skills maybe as well? So on one hand, we have the technology, of course, that we need to be familiar with, but on the other hand, what else would you suggest us to look into?
I think for professional facilitators, you guys definitely know more than I do. But what I want to say is, for whoever who actually run a meeting, I really want everyone to learn from these facilitators because uh, it's all about techniques. It's sometimes it's not about the technology. For example, a lot of people think technology can help you solve engagement. No, it cannot help you. Engagement comes from how you instruct people, how you share the exercise or brief people what to do. I've seen a lot of facilitator, they use physical exercise to get people engaged. For example, I was in a training last week and they asked us to stand up and then form this chain and then move around. That's kind of fun. I've seen facilitator who ask people to put a sticky note in front of the camera and then play a game so that bits by bits people would take off their sticky note as they say yes to the question. So that kind of like offline activities are also part of engagement. So don't think that engagement is only on the laptop. I think, yeah, that would help you guys.
It's a super. I think it is a bit of an answer for what Fiorenza is asking. What are your favorite virtual icebreakers? Because it's a very nice example. I'm just trying to do it with my finger.
Yeah.
I don't know what the game is. Maybe Kevon, you could share that later on also, so that we post it into this discussion later on what kind of game it is. But I think it's also picking up a little bit on what you were saying. It's using also the physical. I'm not sure if I misunderstood you, but well, I don't have my ukulele now here. I don't know why. Damn it. But to use the physical, whatever it is, to show things in a virtual meeting is really good because it's also different. And well, yeah, now I don't have my ukulele. How bad is that? But anyways, what are you coming up with? What physical do you have? Oh, a pen and a paper, right?
I'm just thinking like something like this, because I've seen people do this, like using, I don't know if you can see, like if what you say, I like it, I can just put on a paper like this instead of using the emoji on the platform, because no one cares about those. No one, like we ignore those by default. But if you ask people to make a piece of paper like this in front of them and you can put it up, people feel like, wow, it's a human doing something, and I want to react to that.
Yeah. And I think it's also good, I was just thinking about that now, because people are moving. The moment that you implement the rule, okay, write something on a paper and show the emoji here, people are moving and doing that, and it's action. It's not it's interaction and action. But I'm just thinking about me being always in front of a meeting like that, and then I maybe like click emoji 1, emoji 2. But with this, I'm like, oh, fun, nice.
Yeah, I think we need to make good use of this space. This is a big box.
A really cool idea.
Yeah, so the question is favorite virtual icebreaker. So this like little game, it works too. For example, I can ask everyone to cover the camera, and then I can say, if it's a team building, if you want to do team building, you can play like Never Have I Ever. And then if you have done it, you can take it off, and then the last person wins, and you learn about each other, right? That's the team building thing. But if it's just a workshop where you want to warm up people, then you can find, I don't know, a way to find out more about people, because when you get personal in the beginning of a meeting or workshop, people connect much better. So you can also play a game with this sticky note. So it's up for your imagination. This is just a method. Yeah.
But I think that's nice, because the one, have you ever, or how is it? Have you ever? No, something like that, right? If you play that, I never thought about like tapping the camera, because that's also fun. It's a fun it's a fun thing to do that.
And another way of the sticky note thing is, I've seen people do, let's cover your camera up, and they ask people to work on an exercise for like 3 minutes. And you know how you're always waiting, are you guys done? Are you guys done? And the rule is, if you're done, just take off your sticky note. So when you can see everyone, then you can move on. So it's a lot more efficient.
Yeah, that was a nice one. I like that a lot. And I think Vincent is saying, he's saying, let people draw a dog or a duck and see how they picture the environment or not. That's of course as well. So using props and using dare to go physical. I think that's here like the idea, right? Dare to use physical props. And I was also, that's a very nice one because Vincent, I know he's coming from the intercultural field. So of course with the way people paint a dog or a duck or draw a dog or a duck and the environment that is around tells us, it's sort of an icebreaker for questions about why, what, how, what is there, and so on and so forth. So very nice idea. And you know what, Kevin, the last time I was in a workshop, and that was really amazing. She did an exercise with us, the trainer, and Nikki Webster, if you're watching there, you're still my hero for that exercise. So what she was doing is, it was about perception and understanding and language. So she was asking us to fold a piece of paper once, twice, three, and then she was always saying like, cut out, or how do you say, like, took out one part of the paper, and she was describing, take out this angle, take out that angle, and so on and so forth. And it was really fun because at the end, what we had is, if you opened up the piece of paper, there were a lot of holes in it, right? And the fun thing is, everybody had a different piece of paper. So it was about communication, awareness, virtual space, and it was a physical activity. I just loved that. I swear, it was really cool. Amazing. So what else do we have here? Or did you want to say something, Kevin? Did I interrupt you?
Oh, no. I was just reading Berta's comment. She's saying that there's a lot we can learn from actors and actresses. How do we go beyond the screen with communication, emotions? Yeah, sort of like facial expression, gestures, they all play a part. Absolutely.
Super. Thank you very much, Berta. And I also must say, dear God, time flies. Kevin, it's 13. I can't believe it. And it's still such an amazing discussion. So I'm going to do an exceptional role, and we're going to run for like 3-4 minutes now. Just want to ask you one last question. Let's see what's coming in there. So, okay. We had a lot about encouraging how to make it more participative. We were talking about that, engaging, and how would you drive productive collaboration? How would you answer that? What would be a sort of a secret of yours?
I guess it's not really a secret. Let's see. We talked a lot. Actually, we talked about this already. Like, we talked a lot about planning each exercise ahead of time. I think everyone knows this. We always overrun. We always keep talking, and then we couldn't finish all the agenda items.
I'm overrunning now, right?
Exactly.
So you're totally.
So if you want a more productive meeting, really keep your time. So, but we also understand it's hard to keep your time when there's nothing on the platform to help you with that. So I think if you can set a timer to like count down on this topic, if you have a conclusion, move on. If you don't, still move on. That would be great. And I think don't just talk. Like, we talk about this, like, don't just keep talking and talking. I see a lot of people start utilizing whiteboard so that in the meeting, you can all put ideas into the whiteboard and then do some brainstorming. I think the best part, why this is productive, is that you can still have the whiteboard after the meeting to look at, okay, what did we talk about in that 90 minutes? Oh, okay, these are so many ideas that you can take forward to digest yourself. So I think the takeaway from the meeting is important as well. But a lot of the platform don't focus on that. So I guess the way we help it is we integrate with whiteboard, but we also have a way that automatically summarize everything that happens in your meeting to a Google Doc. So you can take that away to continue work on it. And I think that's productivity. Like, you don't want things to just happen in the meeting. You want the meeting to be just part of it. Yeah.
That's really cool. And at this point also, big congratulations, because I read that Miro integrates with Toasty, right?
Yeah, we partner with them. So now you can easily open up the whiteboard.
Really, really great.
I love Miro. Their whiteboard is amazing.
Yeah, really cool. I like it as well very much. So absolutely fantastic. Thank you very much. And I was just saying, because you were saying we're talking so much. You're so right. And I just remembered that there was a comment from Vincent a little bit before. Silence is amazing, but it's also a cultural reaction. And it is, we do know that. But definitely, I think for me, as we can imagine, silence is probably the most difficult aspect that I need to. If there is silence, I'm really getting uncomfortable, and I know that, and I'm trying to deal with it. But I think it's really interesting how you were sort of fostering the aspect of silence. Could you maybe give one last short example on how you would use silence in a meeting as a facilitator?
How you use silence? I think reflection is very, very important. Like one other thing that I learned is that running a meeting, there are actually a lot of structures and frameworks to help you, and that is a much more engaging way. Now, let me put it this way: if you're just running a meeting and you're going item, and people are just talking unstructurally, people are not going to enjoy it because it feels like we're going nowhere. But for example, there's something called liberating structure. Is some easy to advanced structure that you can pick up. And basically, it's super easy. For example, one of them tells you to reflect by yourself and then form a pair to talk about it again. And then 2 pair will merge into a 4 people group to talk about the same thing again. When you do this, the brainstorming, the collaboration becomes, it comes from a very different angle that yields better outcome. So you are asking about silence, and I'm thinking about structure because a lot of this structure asks people to stay quiet and think about, okay, how do we increase sales for the next quarter? Everyone stay quiet and think. Okay, think, write something down. After 1 minute, everyone's going to have a lot more input than you just keep people talking. So I think silence yield better results. So just remember that. Yeah, that's all I have to say.
Oh. That was such a cool closing. Thank you so much. We are definitely going to share with all of you the sources that Kevon was also mentioning, liberating structures. And last but not least, I'm picking up a huge question, but I'm not going to answer the question, but I'm going to share materials with you. So there was Günther asking already before, how do you implement the World Cafe format in Zoom or other platforms? Günther, bad news, I'm not going to talk about it now, but good news, I've been running World Cafes for the past month of different sizes from 25 to 150, and I'm going to share that with all of you later on. And at this point, thank you very much for your participation from out there to everybody on Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. Thank you so much for your comments and for your questions. And Kevon, it was a huge pleasure, again, discussing with you. And, well, we are waiting for the Toasty beta version or the final version that we are then going to have all those liberating structures implemented in a great technology, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's already out, but we keep pushing out updates every week. So if you guys want, you can check it out.
Exactly. I'm going to post that as well after the LinkedIn Live into the comment section so that you can check out Toasty. I'm a huge fan. And with this, my last claim for today, as you know, thank you very much again. And let's become a hero of the virtual space hero. Thank you very much for being with us. And with this, Kevon, I have prepared a virtual cocktail backstage, so stay there. I'm going to
Cheers. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for having me.
To all the others, thank you very much and have a beautiful afternoon. Bye-bye.
Bye.